Here's what you get with this episode of The Nice Guys on Business.
I say this to people who report to me all the time is, as a leader, your number one job is to underwrite risks. And the more you're able to show that to your employees, the more they'll feel comfortable letting you know what's on their minds and how they make decisions, etc. So when you mess up, I was like, hey, this thing here was not great. Here's what I expected you to do. Here's what you did. And just having and then sort of following that up with, it's okay if you did this. It's nothing bad's going to happen, but I want you to know this is how I look at it. This is how everybody else around you looks at it. So that going forward, let's make sure we don't do that again.
I'm going to need you to go ahead and come in tomorrow. So if you could be here around 9, that would be great. Okay. And I almost forgot. I'm going to need you to go ahead and come in on Sunday too, okay? We lost some people this week, and we sort of need to play catch-up. The nice guys on business are not really carrying their weight. Go from where you are now to where you could be. Get expert tips to grow your business, to be more productive and more efficient, whether you're trying to build influence, grow your community, or make it rain. Best-selling author of Nice Guys Finish First, Doug Sandler, can lead the way. The Nice Guys on Business is produced by TurnKey Podcast Productions. Now, here's your host, Doug Sandler.
All right, Nice Guy community. Joining us today is Mahesh Guruswamy. Now, Mahesh, he is the author of How to Deliver Bad News and Get Away with It, A Manager's Guide. He's also the Chief Product and Technology Officer at Kickstarter, where he leads the product and engineering teams to develop next-generation features for creators and backers. With over 2 decades of experience, Mahesh also has played a significant leadership role at Kajabi. Now, you guys know, because I talked about Kajabi a lot, I use it as a part of my system, my landing pages, lead magnets. Now, he was Chief Technology Officer and Senior Vice President of Engineering. His insights into tech innovation and people management make him a valuable voice for all of us to listen to. Excited to chat today, Mahesh. Welcome to the Nice Guys.
Happy to be here. That was way too kind. Thank you.
Well, it was written by my mom, so I wanted to do her justice. So I could show her good. Part of being a nice guy is you have to listen to your mom or your parents a lot, don't you?
That's right.
So Mahesh, I want to talk about this book for a second, and I want to talk about it from the perspective of, I can think about all of the leadership experts out there, guys like John C. Maxwell and Stephen Covey and Brian Tracy and the guys that really teach leadership. And I don't hear a lot from them about how to have these difficult conversations. I talked to them about leading from the front line and being a good leader by example. But you decided to take a slightly different perspective. It's how to have these great conversations. And you enlightened me. You said, well, look, 70% of my day is having these difficult conversations, and I need to do it. So is that why you wrote the book, or why did you write the book?
It's a great question. So whenever I have to deal with a emotionally difficult situation, my way of processing that day is to write it down. That's how these things started. In the very beginning, when I had to have a tough conversation with somebody or have to deliver tough news to a customer, I would go home. It was back in the day when we were all in the office. So yeah, we'd go physically back home. I was thinking about the day, and the day is in my head. And I always think back to, how do I get this thing in my head and process it? And I would write it down. This is what I did well. This is what I could have done better. And this is what I would do in the future. So I've kept these little notes going back to almost 15 years. And when I became an exec, I started handing those notes out to my team when they were like, okay, I have to I'm going to go deliver this bad news to somebody, but can you coach me on how to bring the, and then years ago, I decided to look at my notes and this is enough material here for a book. And I think it'll be helpful for any new manager or people leader who has to deal with the messy bits of being a manager, which is how do you deliver bad news? How do you deliver uncomfortable news to your stakeholders? And when I asked around, I did some kind of testing with my cohort, with my audience, and asked them, hey, would you read a book if I wrote something like this? And the answer was yes. So then I decided to just write it on my nights and weekends, and here we are.
So take me through. Can you give me an example of what it? I mean, I would assume that many people understand. Hey, look, you're called into the manager's office or the president's office to have a conversation. Oftentimes, it feels like you're being called down to the principal's office.
That's
When
right.
that happens. So how do you, as a leader, how do you create an environment that feels safe, but at the same time having these conversations? Because I would imagine that you're somebody that isn't just looking to roll over somebody that's sitting in front of you. You probably want to do it eloquently so you don't lose your entire team. So can you share a little bit about how that goes down without it being a grenade?
Yeah, it's a great question. So my approach is always starts from empathy, right? So I want to be kind, I want to be empathetic. I want to make sure like I understand where the other person is coming from, what is their personal situation like. But I also temper that with realities, because when market cycles go up and down, like every 10 years we'll have a recession. In the middle, we'll do great or sometimes do fine. And in those moments when we're doing fine, everybody forgets the tough part of being a manager, when you have to maybe like let people go, or maybe when you have to have tighter like rules on performance management, etc. And so I never shy away from that conversation with anyone. I never tell people that everything is great. I tell people as thoughts form in my head. So one of the things I have consciously worked to become better at is when something started to bother me, I would immediately share that with the person who might be affected with it because of it in
Hmm.
the future. So oftentimes what managers do is try to ignore the little voice in their head and wait for
Yeah.
it to go away. But what I've realized is it does not go away. It becomes worse and worse and worse. And then you might have to like break the news to somebody when they're least expecting it. So the approach I take is
Yeah. Yeah.
I try to build a personal relationship with everyone that I work with, but then I also go tell them, hey, today, because of this behavior, I feel like this. How do you how do you react to this? Do you also feel that way, or do you have any other points of views on this? And as it starts to build, I give like constant feedback to people. And this is, I don't know if every company, you'll be able to do this, but I try to circumvent some of the HR processes
Right.
because I just want to be like a human. I want to be like,
You want
hey,
to be real,
I
a
want to
real
be
guy,
real,
a
right?
real guy
And
having a real conversation with somebody that's on your team without feeling like, do I need to bring this up with HR? Because you're not always talking about things that are outside. It could just be a procedural thing. It doesn't necessarily need to be a breaking an HR rule or anything like that. Is that correct?
that's right. And what I noticed is bringing HR into the conversation always increases the temperature.
Hmm.
So my approach has always been I give people the out. And I go, hey, person, this is not working out. I strongly feel like is this irrecoverable? So should we just part ways, mutually? And this is even before I bring in HR. Some companies frown upon it, some companies are okay with it, but I try to like give them the out before pulling HR in, because in the minute you pull HR in, temperatures rise, everybody has their defenses up, and it just makes it hard for me to have like real conversations.
Take me through now you've worked with some pretty large organizations. That will the same conflict resolution or bringing bad news to someone, will this work no matter the size of the organization, or do you find that this works for an organization that's got some pretty deep hierarchy?
Well, I think it should work anywhere. I think it comes down to how real you're planning to be with the people you work with. So it doesn't matter how large the organization is. I've used similar tactics even at Amazon. When I was Amazon, a giant organization with like deep bureaucracy and hierarchies. And when I have to like deliver bad news, I do it the way I do it these days. So I take somebody for a walk and say, hey, it's not working out. Here's how I feel about it. You tell me how you feel about this. Do you think it's recoverable? And if it's not recoverable, let's like find an easy path out for everybody, so we
Hmm.
don't like become enemies by the time we're done with this. So a rule of thumb that I try to use is even after I let somebody go or encourage them to like leave the organization, I try to be on like a good relationship with them. I try
Sure.
very hard to keep that personal relationship going.
Well, there's a lot of steps between having a conflict or having a challenging conversation with somebody and having somebody no longer, be in a situation where they're not working out. Can we notch it down a little bit for a second instead of it being an extreme situation? How about just somebody that's, pardon the expression, but just screwed up on the job, and you
Right.
want to have a conversation, but you want to be real world? Does it work the same way? I mean, it's still, I can see it still being a walk around the office. Hey, come on with me. I want to have a conversation with you. Are you okay with, with taking a break for 10 minutes so we can have a conversation?
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. I think it's important in those moments when when it's a recoverable situation, right? When it's like things are not going to go south immediately. It's all about letting them know that it's okay. It's okay you messed up the first time, the second time. I'm here to like cover you. I say this to people who report to me all the time is as a leader, your number one job is to underwrite risks. And the more you're able to like show that to your employees, the more they'll feel comfortable like letting you know what's on their minds and how they make decisions, etc. So when you like mess up, I was like, hey, this thing here was not great. Here's what I expected you to do. Here's what you did. And just having like and then sort of following that up with, it's okay if you did this. It's nothing bad's gonna happen. But I want you to know, like, this is how I look at it. This is how everybody else around you looks at it. So that going forward, let's make sure like we don't do that again.
I would imagine that in an environment like tech innovation or people management, or especially in the startup world, that
Sure.
that failure is more prevalent than success in making decisions, because a lot of people are guessing. They're guessing at what direction to go.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean that they don't have a certain set of parameters that their responsibilities need to fall within, but they do have a higher tendency for failure, especially in those environments. Do you feel that people still feel safe having these conversations with you as you present them?
I think so. I think the other thing I want to like point out is um, I think is fashionable for tech companies to say failure is acceptable, but the reality it's not. If you fail like all the time, in the end, it's a
Right,
business to run, right? You have
right,
to make
right.
money, you have to like show value. And if your like experiments are always failing, at some point your boss will be like, well, this is not working out, so you probably need to go. So I just, even in those moments, I try to let people know that there is a limited runway for us to
Hmm.
be experimental here. But once you hit the end of the runway, and if you don't have anything tangible to show, we have to do something different, right? So that we can show progress and value.
How do you, especially again, I want to stay in the environment that you're in, which tends to be a high innovation
Mhm.
environment. How do you color outside of the lines or work outside of the box and still able to have these conversations? And it doesn't, like you said, it's 70% of your day is probably having these challenging conversations. It's not because people are breaking the rules necessarily. It's because people kind of painted outside the box. Isn't that what we're looking for, though, in the environment that you're in?
100%, 100%. But I think there are multiple ways of coloring outside the box, right? So my preference would be if you're trying to build something innovative, you don't go into a bunker for 6 months, come back out with a fully fledged plan and go, okay, this is our way for the future. My preference would be to build smaller things and show it to customers as soon as possible. And this is
Hmm.
one of the things I push my teams on is, if you have something innovative to build, you can just like build parts of it and show it to customers. Like we have spent like we can like ship like rockets to the moon in like 6 months, right? So I would like push my team to anchor more on speed and get this in front of customers, get feedback and iterate. And that is totally acceptable for me. If version one is not resonating with the customer, I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. We learned from it. Let's move on. But what is not okay is you go dark for like 6 months, come back out with something, and if it works, it's fine. But if it doesn't work, then that's not great.
I found that not only with my team, but with my customers as well, setting the proper expectations before a project begins or at some point during the early phase of a project is the best way to proceed. It makes those challenging conversations less challenging because you can always come back to the quote unquote the rules or the expectations that you set at the beginning.
That's
Do
right.
you find that that is your practice also?
Yeah, I think the in most cases, yes, but in some cases, when you're building like truly something innovative, something like brand new, which the customers have not experienced, we tend to my recommendation would be to go with it like a little bit more open-ended and open-minded and see how they react to it. But in most cases, yes, I think the key is to set expectations right.
Talk about the other way. We so far have talked about a leader sharing some difficult, challenging conversation with somebody that is on their team that is under them. But sometimes you have to have conversations that are challenging with people that are your leaders or you're above you. How do you navigate those those conversations?
Well, I think I've been on the receiving end and giving end too for these. And what I try to do in every situation is no different than delivering bad news to somebody who reports to me. I want to keep open lines of communication with anyone, everyone that I work with, including my bosses. And I tell this to all new bosses that I report to is you never have to hide anything from me. If you feel uncomfortable about something, just let me know and we can talk about it. Because I think in the roles we are in, like as execs, our time is limited. And the more time we spend like ruminating about things and thinking about how to deliver the message, the more time we're going to lose. So my feedback to my bosses, current boss included, is if you feel like I'm not doing my job, just let me know so that I can like quickly react to it. We do like these performance reviews every quarter, every 6 months. And one piece of feedback that I give to my boss consistently is just keep giving me feedback.
Mm.
And it doesn't mean that when I get critical feedback, I feel great about it and I like, process it just like that. It still feel terrible, but I'd rather have that than wait 6 months, 1 year, and then find out that I'm not doing a good job.
Oh, totally, and I 100% agree with you. And those that have fragile egos or are easily injured or burned by your boss, then that may be challenging. But that's your wound that you need to overcome. So it's better to get small, incremental, challenging conversations than one big one at the end of the year, and you no longer have a job on the other side of it. So
That's right. That's right. One of my old bosses used to say this. He used to say, "Index on your happiness," and I try to do that all the time because if I'm unhappy about something, I want to like act on it. I don't want to like let it fester. And I let my team know too. Like if I'm doing something that you don't like or agree with, you gotta like let me know. Don't hide it. Don't wait on it, because our time on this planet is limited.
Agreed. Agreed. Mahesh's book is called How to Deliver Bad News and Get Away with It, A Manager's Guide. Right now, it's in pre-release on Amazon. We'll make sure we put a link in the show notes for it. I want to go to a couple of things that we some of the stuff I'm sure I did not prep you for because I don't know what's going to happen until it's actually happening. And noticing behind you that you have Clint Eastwood on your wall. Those in our community that are listening to this, you're not seeing it, but I'm seeing a picture of Clint Eastwood, and he is the ultimate of cool. But he's the guy that basically says, "Do you feel lucky, punk?" He's as Dirty Harry as an investigator. Maybe as the outlaw Josie Wales, he was a little bit more brash with his comments. So if you have a photo like that, sometimes I think maybe is there a contradiction in there? I mean, that photo represents somebody that will just tell it like it is and doesn't care about the feelings. But I know that that's not you.
No, that's definitely not me. So the story behind for your audience, this is the good, bad, and the ugly. So the three characters from that spaghetti western. Um, it was one of the first, grown-up movies, quote unquote, I was able to see with my parents, with my dad specifically, and I was about like 10 or 11, I think. And after seeing the movie, I realized that this is the first movie I saw where the lines between the good guys and the bad guys blur. So in the beginning of the movie, like Clint Eastwood was his character, clearly is like set up to be the good guy, but really in reality he's not, right? Like he's also a bounty hunter looking for like a payout. And so it's the first movie that blurred the lines for me, and I realized that the world is much more complicated than I imagined it to be. So there's kind of a constant reminder for me.
It is a constantly reminder, and it is a reminder that those difficult conversations, they actually may feel like they're difficult to have, but they will absolutely reward you as you have them. I'm not saying to look for the, I've always been a guy that to tell the people that are leaders under me that I teach them about managing other people. I said, you're much better off trying to catch people in the act of doing something right as opposed to doing something wrong. But
Right?
the reality of it is that people do things wrong sometimes, and they need to be told so that they know what you're expecting.
That's
Uh,
right. That's right. That's right. And that's what I think and this is in my book too. People sometimes have this um, kind of myopic view or like, misplaced view of what, workplaces are. In the end, they are capitalistic institutions. You have chosen to work at a capitalist institution with have goals, that have real revenue implications and real, ramifications of not hitting goals, etc. Right? And I want like all people leaders to understand that, internalize that, because oftentimes like new leaders have this utopian view of what their world is, and I often have to burst their bubble and say, yes, you do have to like create an environment where your team feels safe and motivated and happy. And I agree with all of that. But you have to realize that if the stock price doesn't do well,
right.
there will be implications to how we operate as a company.
So I can imagine, as I said a little bit earlier, I can imagine you having like a tour with John C. Maxwell, Stephen Covey, Brian Tracy, those guys, and Mahesh Guruswamy as the like the lead ticket in there, and talking to an audience, and you bringing up the rear, and you having all these conversations with, yeah, I appreciate John, Brian, and Stephen sharing all of the reality with you, but let me share you the dose of reality, which is you have to have difficult conversations with people. Was the intention so that you could for you to write the book so that you could go out, speak to organizations, and bring the lessons learned through your couple of decades, or what was the
Um,
point of writing the book?
I think the point of the book was to like get the message out in front of other leaders. Specifically, like if you're a newer manager or if you're considering a move to management, I selfishly would recommend you read that book because it has some of the truths that you don't like encounter, immediately after you start working as a manager. I haven't actually considered, talking about it with like companies, but maybe I could, maybe I could.
Well, I see there's a future on a speaking tour for you for you. I don't want to take anything away from Kickstarter. I'm sure you're doing a great job with them, but I can see you branching out and doing your own thing at some point with all of the wisdom that you've gained through your experience in leading organizations like
Uh,
Kickstarter.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
One of the things that it says in on Amazon, Nice Guy Community, is that, and I'm just going to read a direct quote from the description. Although there are many books on the inspirational side of leadership and how to lead effectively in general, few tackle the less fun but critical topic of having the unpopular but necessary conversations all managers must have, making this an essential for any leader's library. So if you have 7 habits of highly effective people up on your shelf, or Who Moved My Cheese by Dr. Spencer Johnson up there, you've got to have Mahesh Guruswamy's book, Bad News, and how to deliver bad news and get away with it. So a manager's guide. So I so appreciate you sharing your wisdom and your expertise. Is there anything that I'm not asking you that I should be telling my community about this book or about your career journey?
No, I think you covered it great. The last thing I would say is if people want to like find me, I'm on LinkedIn. So you can find me on LinkedIn. You can follow me if you want to reach out and talk more, or if you want me to come talk to your team.
Hmm.
There are like you can find me on LinkedIn, and there's a way to like book time with me. So my goal is to just to be clear, my goal is like not dissuade people from becoming managers, but I want people to go into that role fully aware of what it takes to be a successful manager. And believe me, there's a lot of great parts too, but I don't want people to ignore the messy parts.
Understood. And by the time that this episode comes out, we'll be right around book launch day. So if you are listening to this and it's right after book launch day, get over to Amazon. It's no longer on pre-release. It's now on now post-launch. And if you're listening to this just before the 14th of January, go ahead and get your copy of it. Mahesh, thanks so much for sharing your message and your inspiration with our community today.
Oh, thank you so much.
Nice Guy community, never underestimate the power of nice or the power of a really good bad news conversation. Special thanks to Mahesh Guruswamy. All of his information, including access to the book, his LinkedIn, and all of his links will be directly there in the show notes. Steve O'Brien, go ahead and take us out of here.
If you're hearing my voice right now, you obviously enjoy the podcast. So why not help the guys out? Click on the Patreon link in the show notes, and for as little as $2 a month, you can show your support. Or show us whatever you want.